2 years ago, I sat around a table chatting with teachers from Cincinnati College Preparatory Academy, a charter school in Cincinnati. We were on a break from a professional development day where we had been spending the year talking about writing instruction. We were talking about favorites, collections, the coming holiday, and somewhere in that conversation, Shante Cox said that her favorite animal was a butterfly. I can't remember what her reason was, or even if she even gave one. But after watching her teach, interact with colleagues, and tell her story of leadership, it makes perfect sense. You see, butterflies are commonly known as symbols for rebirth and change. In life, a caterpillar moves through the life cycle to transform into a butterfly, changing from a crawling worm like insect to a winged flying creature. The two insects seem so different, but are actually the same life, going through a metamorphosis. It's this cycle that takes on the symbol of rebirth and growth, a butterfly representing the transformations we can go through to take metaphorical flight in our lives. I had heard Miss Shante Cox talk about her life, her students, and her teaching, and I knew she was a butterfly leader. Miss Shante Cox is a fifth grade teacher at CCPA. As a veteran teacher in the building, she leads without an official title. When I explained that I had an assignment to interview a leader and that I wanted that leader to be her, she was surprised. I could see it in her face. And later she explained that she thought there were probably so many other people I could have chosen. But what she didn't see was the way others in the room always listened to her and watched her reaction. What she didn't see is the way I could see her students look at her when they walked into the room. And what she didn't see was how her honesty, her willingness to ask questions, her desire to help the others in the room reflected powerful community based leadership. And I'm not the only one who noticed, of course. When Miss Cox told her husband I wanted to interview her and she was surprised, he said, "I don't understand why you don't see what other people see." Whether she sees it or not, she's a leader, one who changed her life because of educators and wanted to help others do the same. A butterfly leader. So I asked, if you were so surprised, how do you define leadership? And one of the things that stuck out was when she said, "When I define leadership, I think about the feelings of others, and you have to consider them. Let them know they have worth." She's really big about people being heard. Remember that as you continue to hear Miss Shante Cox's story. So I asked, how did you become a leader? Miss Cox grew up in a home she describes as not loving or supportive. With little room to have a voice or make her own decisions in her authoritarian home, she chose school as a place to show off for friends. Describing herself as both mouthy and quiet, Miss Cox said she can easily point to moments when her life changed. Moments when she was seen by others, positive women who were empowering, motivating, and told her she had a voice, a word. These women helped Miss Cox transform into the leader she is today. So, who are these women? In the fourth grade, Miss Jacqueline Brown, a language arts teacher, saw Miss Cox's love of writing. Miss Brown would respond with praise. "Oh, you are amazing," which made Miss Cox look forward to class. Miss Brown saw something in Miss Cox, telling her that the way she acted with her friends, it just wasn't her, suggesting she try to act different and see what happens. Miss Cox did that, and the group followed her. Miss Cox had found her voice, telling me she gave me my word. Later, a math teacher, Miss Walker, was the same way, reminding Miss Cox that she could achieve, that someone believed in her. Miss Walker told her that she was an amazing young lady, beautiful, and became a teacher who never gave up on Miss Cox. A counselor in high school helped Miss Cox see teaching as a career, although her family told her to be a computer engineer. And then finally, Dr. Belinda Tubbs Wallace. Miss Cox didn't know the successful career path of Dr. Tubbs Wallace at the time. She didn't know that Dr. Tubbs Wallace would earn multiple advanced degrees, win awards, sit on community councils, start Girls with Pearls, and be an advocate for emotional health for students across Cincinnati. But what Miss Cox did know was that her teacher believed in her. Miss Cox told the story of how she remembers it was conference time, and she just knew that her aunt, who was coming to the conference, was going to hear how she was being smart and really mouthy. But Miss Tubbs Wallace just said positive things, spoke highly of her even when she was messing up. In fact, it was Miss Tubbs Wallace who always pushed her to the front, who insisted she'd be president of this organization and speak at this luncheon. Miss Cox remembers she really wanted me to be great, even when I didn't see it. It's all of these teachers who Miss Cox credits with changing her life course, developing her as a leader. Looking back on life, Miss Cox says she can't believe all the time she wasted on trying to prove to other people that she wasn't smart, trying to be someone she wasn't. But these women checked in on her, never gave up on her, showed her how to have a voice. These women gave Miss Cox her butterfly wings. So today, Miss Cox is a butterfly leader. She takes her own experiences being mentored and encouraged by strong, positive women to do the same for her students. She's the school advisor of Girls with Pearls, a turnkey school-based program that fosters leadership to change the outcome for girls by empowering them to plan for a bright future through education, personal responsibility, and social awareness. It was started by Dr. Tubbs Wallace. Since 2018, Ms. Cox has been running the program at CCPA, where this year they had 40 applications to be in the program. Since the bus they use for events only carries 15 students, the applications were taken seriously with mission statements and recommendations. The girls meet to make vision boards, learn about reproductive health, attend the ballet, and enjoy urban air with the goal of learning how to carry yourself in life. Miss Cox, who took over the program because as a behind the scenes helper the year before, she became a magnet to the girls. She explains that she leads because she knows what it's like to have people not believe in you and to have educators who do. She wants to give back and create a safe place because of her own history of having people give up on her and speak mean words. It was such a blessing because I had educators who believed in me, she says. What was given to me, I wanted to give that back. I tell them that y'all might not like me, but you are going to remember, you're going to be accountable, and you're going to be amazing. And you're going to be in the middle of something and hear my voice. She always sees the positive in the girls and wants them to know that they don't have to be a product of a negative environment, but that they can be, like her, a butterfly. Miss Cox's leadership goes beyond Girls with Pearls. Her leadership shines as a teacher leader with colleagues. Although she doesn't have a title, she's clearly a lead teacher with new and veteran colleagues asking her for advice and guidance. Miss Cox sees this as her role as a teacher leader. And she takes the words from Girls with Pearls to heart. Her leadership shines as a teacher leader. In fact, when defining leadership, she names the feelings of others as important. A leader doesn't have to make others feel inferior. Instead, a leader lets people know they have worth, that they are supported. And it's important to Miss Cox that people are heard and know that they have a voice. A leader uses their own voice to share what they have experienced and figure out. If she sees someone struggling, it's her role to check in and to listen. So Ms. Cox acknowledges that teaching and leadership isn't always easy, but she sees that as part of leadership, and that when you have the opportunity to help others behind you, that's what you must be willing to do. When confronted with roadblocks or social justice issues, Ms. Cox faces them constructively. She recognizes that there's things out of her control, but she has built respect and trust with her administration, which means that when there are issues, she can come with ideas and a plan to try rather than complaining. Believing that there are always things that come against you, Ms. Cox says leaders have to be resilient and push through. At times, leadership has felt to Ms. Cox as if she's alone, and she's felt like she's had people lie or take her kindness for a weakness, but she embraces the role that she sees God has given her to be an encourager and a motivator. And we ended our conversation talking about another place where Ms. Cox is a leader in her advice to her young sons. And she had a whole list of advice, but the two that stick out: you don't have to fall for anything, and be true to yourself and be true to others. So what is butterfly leadership? It's culture-based, it's culturally responsive, it's culturally relevant. It thinks about race and power. It is messy and political. But more than anything, a butterfly leader believes people have voices and expertise, and it is human-centered. Transformation and rebirth is always possible. Thank you, Miss Shante Cox, teacher leader.